Do you know, I was thinking about the fact that they kind of use codes and the way in which they use codes, and it's interested me. WN08OCK. Knock on, made me think of cock. Maybe that's what it is. They want to see what letters your mind will turn into a word, you know. my mind turned it into cock. That's what made me laugh. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of the programme. That's part of the kind of learning machine, is to see the way that you process things. I was trying to say that before in a video, but it didn't come out very coherently. But I think it is to see the way that your mind processes information. You know, that's why they get people that pretend to be targets, and I don't mean all of them. I'm hoping that one person who I think is who's really intelligent and has sent me some stuff to work out. I hope that she doesn't think I'm talking about her, because I'm certainly not, you know. Yeah, I like Londoners. I do. I like Londoners. Anyway, yeah, I think they get people that pretend to be targets, and they put things in your environment for you to kind of decode, if you like, for you to try and work out, to see the way that you process things. And I think in my case, the reason for that is my dad left some kind of coded messages when he died, or before he died. He left some coded messages, and I think my dad, like I've said before, I think my parents were targeted. I think my dad especially was being gang-stalked. I think he was gang-stalked to death. I would call it murder. I mean, they might refer to it as suicide, but I definitely see it as murdered. Just the way that they behaved, they had no option, and in my mind that's murder, you know. But he left some messages, and unfortunately the letters and things that he left that are coded went to my brother, and he is unfortunately a gang stalker. So, you know, I've only seen them a couple of times. I don't have access to them, but even the 2 or 3 times that I've seen these messages, I can kind of work out some of the code. You know, it's I hope if my brother ever watches these videos that he starts looking into it a little bit more. If he's concerned, of course. I mean, he could have been part of the gang stalking crew that murdered my father. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to kind of speculate and call someone a murderer, but yeah, my dad was definitely pointing things out in those letters, and I can definitely see the code that he was using, and I think that's why they put a lot of code around me, to see the way, to try and find out the way that I process information, the way that my mind works, because they want to be able to read the code, and they want to be able to know what it is that I know, and see what it is that I see, and see the way that I work things out, so that they can try and work things out, so they can, you know, manipulate me, and so they can manipulate my environment, so that I'm not seeing the things that I'm meant to see, i.e. kind of overwhelming me, and overwhelming my senses with all the shit that they put in my life, you know, all the manipulated, manufactured shit that they put around me. But yeah, if my brother's ever watching this, I would just like to point out, you know, that our father was a very clever man, and he certainly wouldn't spell his oldest nephew's name wrong. So, you know, just think on. Really look, you know, 100k, look. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah, so I think that's why they do it. They want to see the way that our minds process things, and they also want to try and manipulate us to process things a certain way. They want to put their own code in and see if they can get us using that, you know. Yeah, I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Yeah, so I think some of the things that they put in the environment around you is for other gang stalkers. If they are seeing through our eyes, you know, and neurally monitoring us and seeing through our eyes, then they're going to put objects in the environment, and then they're going to force us, manipulate us to look at it. You know, they can control you with chips, or with vibrations, or with sound, or however it is that they do that. Manipulate where your eyes are directed, etc. So they'll put things in the environment that they want other members of their team to see, and then they're going to focus your attention on them. You know what I mean? It's like coded messages left specifically for members of their team, but that are being seen through your eyes. So they're kind of using you as us, not you, not just you, us, as a kind of a camera, if you like, you know. I believe that, and I believe that they do that online as well. There must be some kind of coding in, you know, the apps that they use to contact each other. It's interesting, you know, the kind of coding surrounding me they use. I've worked out some of it. Some of it's taken me a while, right enough. It's not easy, and there's other bits I find new things every day. But I'll give you an example. The people in the house that I live in, the names that they've been given to use, I really don't think for a second that they're their true names, but the initial letters of all of their first names are the same letters as the initial letters of the schools I attended. I attended 3 different primary schools and 1 high school, and those letters, an anagram of those letters spell out cake. And they use that reference quite a lot in my Target, and if I'm in a supermarket, they'll send people past me talking about cake. And I've always thought, it's weird, you know, I don't get it, I don't really get the reference. But when they came into my house and kind of showed me the videos, they made reference to a Little Britain sketch. I don't know if any of you have ever watched that show, a Little Britain sketch, when in it where they talk about cake. And I used to quite enjoy Little Britain. So I kind of thought they were referencing that, because they do reference that TV show quite a lot as well. The place where I used to live, they had one of the retards there. Her mum used to come every day. I mean, it was a kind of assisted living place, if you like, you know. And her mum would come and visit for a couple of hours every day. I don't know. She was only young. She was like 18 or something. I don't know why she wasn't living at home when her mum clearly got on with her and she was coming and visiting her every day. But of course, she's just a gang stalker. She's placed there. It's all a kind of set up, you know. All these people are set in place for a reason. They're not. She didn't need assisted living. That probably wasn't even her mum. But she would come in and, you know, she would talk really loud to the staff there right outside my bedroom door so that I would overhear. And she made reference a couple of times to Little Britain, and other people do as well. And cake is a reference that they use quite a lot. But so in the setting that I'm in now, that they've put me in, the names that they've given to these pricks, the initial letters of all their first names, the 4 of them, amounts to cake. It's an anagram of cake. And cake is an anagram of the first initial letters of all the schools that I attended. Also, one of their one of their first names, one of these people in the house that I live in, is a pseudonym. I don't actually think it's their first names, like I said. I don't think they're their true names, I really don't. But her first name is the same name of the street that I used to live in, or a shortened version of it. So I used to live on a road called Ellisland Road. So they've put someone in the house with that as a first name. The surname of one of them is an anagram, again, of the first initial letters of 4 of my cousins. So my cousins' names are Maureen, Eileen, Christine and Kevin. So you put the first initial letters of all those names together, and that's the surname of one of these people that are living in this house. And there's other codes within these names. So their surnames, again, there's 4 of them. So 2 of their surnames make the initials JG. So I'm not going to tell you their surnames right now. I will do a video about it, and I'll write all this down so it's easier to follow. But say Jones and Graham, that's 2 of their surnames. Excuse me. Well, my dad's best childhood friend, his name was Jimmy, or James, and his surname, again, I won't tell you right now, but it starts with a G. The other 2 surnames of the other 2, the initial letters of their surnames, is WM. So say, for example, Williams, Michaels. Again, I will write all this down and get into it properly another time so it's easier to follow. But the childhood friend of my mother. Her name was Wilma, and her second name begins with an M. So you see how they're making all these connections with these people and things that they're putting in my environment. Is very much a manufactured script that they're putting me in, you know. None of this is true, but it's all kind of going back to things that have happened in my life, points of reference in my life, schools that I've went to, roads that I've lived in. If you take the roads that I lived in as a child before I moved out, they spell out bad. And I remember my brother, last time I saw him actually, he said that one Christmas he'd had a bit too much to drink and he kept playing Michael Jackson's Bad over and over again. You see the way they kind of manipulate, and they're using things in your past and things that have happened to you. And I can't think of the right wording because there's people stood here meant to distract me, to stop me talking. But that's kind of part of the coding, you know, that they put around you to see whether you work it out or not. But yeah, I would be very, very surprised if the names that they've given to these people are actually their true names. I really don't think that for a second. It would be much too fucking weird, wouldn't it, you know? It would be very, 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 very strange, especially when I go in. I'm just giving you a small portion of the things, you know. The names of my schools, names of my parents' childhood best friends, you know, my cousins' names, the street that I lived on. That's just a really small example, and that's just associated with these 4 people. I can give you, I'm going to go into it and make a video about it, probably a couple it will take, telling you exactly, you know, giving you a really kind of deep dive into the names and the significance that they have, and also previous addresses that I've lived at, the significance that they play in part of the programme, that they use part of the manufactured reality that they've now put around me, using all things from my past. But I will go into it. So yeah, they should, because this dog is getting to the fucking root of the issue. Anyway, I'll just show you this. Sign. This is where all the gang stalkers stay when they're not gang stalking. It's where they all rest and recuperate from a heavy day's gang stalking. Anyway, God bless. Lots of love. Bye bye.